first community forum for the South County Senior Center. My name is Jennifer Ferrara. I'm the director of the South County Senior Center. I'm going to introduce all of the folks up here at our table today, and we also have Doug Gallo, who is one of our partners through EDM Studio, who is doing some of this with us. So this is Doug. Doug, say hello. I don't think Doug's muted anymore.
Oh, okay.
You took him up. Doug, can you say hi?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm in Rockland, Ohio this evening, but glad to be with you in Massachusetts.
Hold on, we're just...
Representing my
Doug, can you repeat that? Because unfortunately you were not plugged in.
Oh.
Thank you.
My name is Doug Gallo. I'm in Loveland, Ohio, and Lifespan Design Studio is my architectural firm. We are a firm that specializes in the design of senior centers, and we've been working with Chris and EDM now for, I guess, a month. And worked on numerous projects in the Massachusetts and Connecticut area. So glad to be here with you this evening.
Thank you, Doug. So we also have Chris Wanty from EDM Studio. Him and his architectural design firm put all of the stuff that you will see today together. For those of you who have not met our staff at the Senior Center, Chris Goudreau, our outreach coordinator, Tom Patria, our program coordinator, Joyce Palmer Fortune, our chair of our Board of Oversight from the town of Whately, and Trevor McDaniel, our member from Deerfield. Unfortunately, Daniel Murphy, our Sunderland rep, could not be here this evening. He's here to says hellos. So now, are we going to start? So the culmination of this is I started this position back in January 31st of 2022. And when I started this position, I heard a lot from the community when I was on various boards for the town of Deerfield, and just listening in general as to what people really wanted and needed in our community for seniors. And that brought us here to today. So thank you for coming. I know the weather is a little cooperative and not really nice right now, but thank you. This is the first of 3 community forums. There will be 2 others that we have scheduled right now as it stands. There will be one Friday, February 28th at 10:30 at the Whately Town Hall in the auditorium. There will also be one on Wednesday, March 19th at the Sunderland Public Library at 2 o'clock, in case you want to share information and have more folks know what's going on. So I introduced you to our team here, but the South County Senior Center is a collaboration of 3 towns, Deerfield, Sunderland, and Whately. Deerfield is our fiduciary. That means we are employees of the town of Deerfield, but we work and report to everyone. So these are our 3 representatives on our Board of Oversight, and myself, Chris, Tom work the day-to-day operations at the Senior Center. In the fall of 2021 through the spring of 22, the town of Deerfield, with the support of Sunderland and Whately, went forward and conducted a needs assessment amongst our 3 towns and our communities. There are over 3,027 older adults who reside in Deerfield, Sunderland, and Whately. Deerfield has 1,639, Sunderland has 844, and Whately has 544. I don't know if you knew that. That census data is from 2020. Every year, or every 10 years, that information is collected, and that is how the state of Massachusetts pays us monies to help facilitate our programming and support to each community within Massachusetts. Right now, we are currently receiving $15 per older adult for the year to provide support to everyone from the state. Students get over $12,000 or whatnot, I think. Ish per student. Now, mind you, while students are at school all day long and it requires a lot more, our older adults still have a purpose in our community. They are worth more, far more than $15 per person per year. So, to touch on some of these, when we got our responses, we had about 36% response rate, which is really incredible. We've been told that getting this amount of people to reply is actually unheard of in some surveys. One of the cool things is they were paper surveys, and a lot of places still go to digital now, forgetting that not everyone has access or the ability to use technology. 66% of the community recognize the importance of a senior center in the community. They're also grateful that we exist. While they may not even be using us now, they know we're there at some point. 30% would attend more programs if the programs matched their interests. 64% are really prioritizing physical health and movement. Outdoor exercise, we've heard in the community, pickleballs I know is a big thing now. We do not have a pickleball court. 58% want a fitness space. And 50% in their 60s and 70s want lifelong learning. Because while you may have gone through school, you can learn and try something new daily. So we heard this. We took this into account. The other questions asked in that survey were about the facilities that the seniors had to use. People expressed their opinions. They wanted one meeting location that was safe. 45% had no idea in the community who to contact for social, health, or municipal services. 50% of those surveyed had been caregivers in the past 5 years. And 58% of caregivers struggle balancing responsibilities for themselves, for their family. These are really key factors of input that we got back, because then we know what to look at when we're moving forward, providing programs, services, and resources. 23% of those who responded and who live in our area are 65 and older who live alone. You may hear the term solo ager throughout certain AARP or other information that's talked about all the time pertaining to older adults. 45% of our community are age 80 and up, and they live alone. 10% of 65 and older residents have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, although that is likely to be underreported. The reason being is not everyone has access to regular medical appointments. They don't always want to go. They're not always diagnosed appropriately, especially if we have 23% of our 65 and older residents living alone. What are we doing for them as a community? By 2035, 37% of our regional population will be 60 and older. Think about that. That is a really large number of people in our community. That number is only increasing. It is not decreasing. And the senior center demand will continue to increase. Here's some events we posted recently. We had a knitting group. One of their projects they did was creating blankets. We offer an ongoing art class right now. We have watercolor painting and drawing. When we look at programs, we look at the statistical data of the medical issues that are facing our older adults in our community. You want to incorporate programming that will increase fine motor skill usage, memory, also physical movement. A lot of people are struggling right now outside with the ice. Take a balance class. You'll learn how to fall well. It may sound funny, but we've actually had people tell us that if they didn't take one of our balance classes and learn how to fall or move, they would have broken something. And unfortunately, people do fall and break something. But in offering programs for strengthening, like our movement classes and other things you'll hear about later, you'll learn that you can increase your mobility and continue to keep the remaining bone strength that you have. So membership growth. Recently, I did our budget presentations to the town of Deerfield and Sunderland. And it was asked of me, what makes a member to a senior center? And I retorted with, person who comes to center once a year, who's active as a member. And that is partially correct, but not fully. Because a person could come to the senior center, you don't have to be a member, you can just be a guest. You want to check out our programs, see what's going on. You know, maybe you just come every year for the annual picnic, but you know, that's about it. You don't have to be a member, it's not required. Membership is free. There is no cost. We don't charge you to be a member. We have you complete a membership form. So we have your information on file. Why is that important? Tom, can you tell me why that's important?
Oh, so you can get more money.
Money, yes. Analytical data, money. But also if you're at the center and something happens to you, I can call Mariella to tell her to come get you or to tell her to meet you at the hospital. So it's really important, you know, that a member is clarified as someone who signs up, gets a membership card. It looks like something you put on a keychain from a grocery store. We pay an annual fee of $1,300 a year to use a database called My Senior Center. It's something that's collected online, and we put everything in there. And that way, when I'm asked by all of the select boards and the finance committees and anyone else who comes in to ask, how many people were at this event on Thursday? How many people come to the centers annually? Well, here's some information to share with you. I came on board in January of 2022. The last real year of services before COVID was 2019. So I put in 2019 to 2021 just to give you an idea of one full real year and then some partial information. We had 262 active members. I started here in 22 to 25 of where we are. I put this slide information together February 5th for most of this data, so some of the larger events that we've had recently aren't calculated. 671 active members. That is a huge increase. We also had new members sign up from 2019 to 2021, 105 individuals. 22 to 25, 438 individuals. The residency of the membership. Sunderland, 150 members. Do you know that increased drastically when we put our space that we're at full-time now there? Deerfield, 342. Whately, 59. Surrounding communities, 120. Now you may wonder, why do we allow people from outside communities to attend? Key thing, we're building a sense of community. Reduce isolation. We have better programming sometimes. Not always. But people don't always have a physical, tangible location to go to. Leverett has a nice COA that's active, but they don't have a regular center. Conway doesn't have a regular center. You know, some centers are only open part-time, and that used to be the same case for us, but that's changed. So how do we meet our demands of this increasing population, increasing membership, and increasing overall aging within our community? Our director position is up to 40 hours. That position was only 30 hours until 2018. In 2023, we increased our outreach coordinator's position from 12 hours to 19 hours to 35 and began offering additional transportation hours. So using grant money, we've been able to pay Chris for 40 hours. So 35 for most of the town and 5 hours from grants. In 2023, we had a change of our program coordinator position. We upped it to 19 hours. And we are open 5 days a week, or accessible, I should say, because some days we have a private event going on and we're only accessible by phone. But that's up from 3 days a week for 12 hours a week. That's what the senior center used to be. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 12. That was it. So at this point in time, I'm going to have Tom and Chris share with you different things that they do, because one of the key questions I get is, all right, you offer a program, what else do you do? And it's really important that you understand that we're not just a place to come and play cribbage on Fridays, which is really popular, and we're happy to do that. But we offer services and supports, and we also offer engaging programs. So, Tom, oh wait, no, this isn't her design, sorry. I apologize, I've been out on medical leave for a little while, so. In 2024, or 23 to 24, this position, our program coordinator, was at 15 hours a week. We hosted, over that time frame that's listed up in the corner, 628 events. That could be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we have enhanced fitness. That's included. Congregate meals are included. All of our events are included. We had 359 active members and 251 guests were non-members age 60 and over. We averaged 71 people coming to our space daily. We had 132 program days, supposed to say at a large capacity place. Centrally located space other than the 3 movement classes. And then starting last year, we were able to get our program coordinator's position increased to 35 hours, but that's at risk. We were told to present level funded budgets. I did not. A couple factors. Deerfield personnel was wonderful to give us cost of living raise, as well as our step increase, but some of the other things beyond our control have increased. I don't know if you're aware, we've received a multitude of grants totaling more than $573,000 in the 3 years I've been here. To facilitate those grants, that requires more work on the town administrative staff, such as our town accountant and our person who does payroll, and so the collector's office, etc. And then also, we also have we put into this budget $3,000 for our movement classes, which is only a fraction of what we actually pay. Our movement classes total around $15,000 annually. So at this point, we're going to be having to move the cost down to the participants of the classes. So in the time frame, if you compare the 2 segments, by increasing our program coordinator's hours to 35 hours a week, we've hosted 935 programs compared to the 628. We've increased membership participants to 408 active members, and also increasing the number of guests to 299. Our average daily attendance is 61 members per day. It's a little bit down, but we've increased programs by about 20 program days a year, or during that time frame. We had 20 more program days available to seniors to participate in. And we've had varied locations. During this process of finding a new senior center, we did a survey. EDM Studio did a survey. We did a survey at the same time to determine what people wanted. So we've been offering all of these other programs, but we wanted to know, what are we still missing? What more could we do? So this is your section. Sorry. So this is Tom. This is the area
Good evening, folks.
Hi.
Tom Patry.
Hello, Tom.
Good evening, good evening. Yeah, so I was brought on board January of last year. In July, I went to full-time. So now I can work with you folks and bring you lots of great programs. So as Jen was saying, in the fall of last year, with EDM Studios having a survey, we also did a survey. And I use this as a foundation for creating worthwhile events for you folks. So I take a couple things, I keep a couple things close to the vest. Number one, social connections. Making events for folks to get involved with the senior center. I think it's so important, not just getting out of the house, but meeting your peers, forming new friendships, which is always cool. We want to reduce loneliness. It's happening, especially for us guys. As we get older, we become more isolated. That's not a good thing. Even though some days I think it is a good thing, it's not a good thing. It's not good for your mental health. So we want to contribute to the wellness, the health and wellness, mental and physical well-being, which is so, so important. Lowering the risk of depression and cognitive decline. That's a good thing. We're trying to help with that. The senior center and the programs, we're providing a sense of belonging, purpose, a reason to get out of bed every morning. I think that's so important. It's going to improve your quality of life. That's what it's all about. The next thing is physical fitness, staying active, being healthy. We know the benefits of physical fitness, right? Jen touched on it before about the balance, and so you don't slip and fall, where you do it gracefully. Flexibility, mobility, so important. So we offer classes, which are very popular. We have some folks in here that attend our enhanced fitness class. We have a waiting list, which is really cool. We have a space at the Whately Town Hall where this takes place. It's limited, but we've got a waiting list, and that's a good thing. If we had a bigger space, we could have more people take part in it. We also have seated dance, chair yoga, and Tai Chi. So continuing on, our members want learning opportunities. So we provide several classes like drawing, painting, even computer classes. The computer classes are very popular. We also, the computer classes are done through Calm Computing. They have classes like cybersecurity, how to use a smartphone, but they're also available for one-on-one assistance where folks get a half hour to bring in their laptop, their tablet, or their phone and get some help with that, which is so important. And again, learning opportunities. The more we learn, we keep that brain sharp, engaged, which is important. And the last thing is having interesting, diverse activities. And I think that's one of the things that Jen has put upon my shoulders is, hey, let's push the envelope, let's do different things that haven't been done before. So we go on trips. We created the Brunch Brigade, and folks seem to really like that. We go all these different locations around, and we get together and we eat. Who doesn't like eating, right? We go down to the Springfield Museums. First Wednesday of every month, they're free. We go down there. We spend a couple hours. Then we go eat again. And at free museums all day, which is really cool. First Wednesday of each month. We have theater performances. Tomorrow we've got an actor coming in to play Queen Elizabeth II at the Whately Town Hall. We have music. We had a guitarist today. We have the Kleins, music groups that come in. And again, it's all about improving cognitive health. And now I'm going to give this to Chris. Thank you.
You got one more.
Oh, jeez. I got so excited. So, we're everywhere. We're all over South County. So our home office, the mothership is at 22 Amherst Road in Sunderland. That's where we sit. That's our offices. But we have socialization there, bingo, activities 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. We also have a food pantry there for folks that need to get some food. Some of our smaller programs take place there. So not only just bingo and cribbage, but seated dance and other little programs that don't require huge capacity. And we have grab-and-go lunches as well. Also in Sunderland, we're at the First Congregational Church. We do our food distribution there, our food truck, one day a month. Very popular day. And also in Sunderland, we have a partnership with Cadence Yoga, where our balance classes and our chair yoga take place. We're at the Whately Town Hall about 3 days a week. That's where our enhanced fitness classes take place. That's where Queen Elizabeth will be performing tomorrow at 10:30. Shameless plug. So we have some of our larger events there, our movement classes. We go to the Polish Club right here in Deerfield. That's where the St. Patrick's Day dinner is going to take place, $5 a ticket. Come all, eat all the corned beef that you can. Our congregate meals, our larger social events. We're at the Deerfield, Chris is at the Deerfield Town Hall once a week for Brown Bag, which is another food distribution. Think of it as a mobile grocery store. And then, of course, hybrid opportunities. Jen was instrumental in getting us money to buy technology to broadcast programs into your homes, to homebound members. So whether we're using the OWL cameras or now we use iPads to use events over Zoom. And to date, we've had 34 participants that have taken place. taking part in our programs that previously would not have been able to. So that has been a really, it's been really great. We look to really grow that as well. Now I can turn it over to Chris.
All right, we have a couple of recent events. Some of the one on the right, I believe, is one of our annual events with congregate meals, and then we had a presentation performer at Whately Town Hall. So this is perfect examples of what we do on a day-to-day basis to help with the well-being of our elders in our communities. So my job is outreach coordinator, and I recognize many of you wonderful faces in the audience, you know, from programs and center. I do a lot of help one-on-one with clients. So one of the first things I want to address is SNAP and HIP. So that's food access. I can help people fill out applications online to get extra money for groceries every month. I mean, the rising cost of food and cost of living is affecting everyone, especially our seniors. So I make private appointments to go over the applications. It takes about 20 minutes. I'm in touch with the Department of Transitionary Assistance, who oversees SNAP and HIP. And for those folks who have SNAP, one thing you might not know is you get $20 extra every month for free for fresh local produce. So that's one advantage. Another is that you can use your EBT card through SNAP to get access to museums, libraries, for musical concerts. So there's a lot of different things that can be utilized, not just for food with that. Another aspect I help people with is during the winter months with fuel assistance. That's another thing we're seeing increase is the price of fuel. So that's another one-on-one consultation I'll have with folks, help them apply on paper with the fuel assistance. HEAP is the program that we help folks with through Community Action in Greenfield. Next, transportation for programming medical appointments. So that's another aspect of my job. I wear many hats among the senior center. So I provide transportation for cribbage tournaments, for bingo every week, some exercise classes, and then for medical appointments. There's actually a gap in transportation in some of our communities. Some of the local RTAs can't provide transportation for folks either up to Greenfield or down in Northampton. So we've been trying to fill that gap to help people get to the medical appointments that they really need to get to. One of my main aspects of my job is referrals. So I'll get people all the time calling me, like say, Chris, I don't know about this aspect of what I want to do. Like, how do I get someone in my house to help with home care? With just, I need a little bit of help around the house. Well, I have list A, B, and C recommendations of where to go to. LifePath, I'd recommend Valley Neighbors, a wonderful organization that's community-driven and volunteer-based in Whately. Legal Aid, Community Legal Aid down in Northampton, I'll recommend. Additionally, we have folks ask about, help with health insurance. So I'll refer them to LifePath in Greenfield, their Shine. That means serving the health insurance needs of everyone. And home modification. As we get older, our homes are aging too. So I have an 1895 home, so I know very, very well about older homes. And the important thing is when you meet with me, it's one-on-one, private information. It's all private. We pride ourselves in having the discretion with your private information when applying to these programs to really help folks get the resources they need. It's people from all walks of life, and I'm always there as a friendly, happy face to help you through the process. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Oh, yes, we have another one. Nutrition program partnerships. So we have a couple of different partners. One is the Food Bank of Western Mass. So once a month, the first Thursday of every month at Deerfield Town Hall, we have the brown bag program. It's exactly what it sounds like, a brown bag full of food that's distributed from the Food Bank of Western Mass. Additionally, we act as a SNAP processing site, which I mentioned earlier. And then the second Wednesday of every month, we have the Turner's Falls Area Survival Center with their pop-up food truck. So that's a big event every month that's held to give food to our elders in our community that are definitely in need. And then we also collect donations from a local farm store, Atlas Farm Store in South Deerfield. So that's another resource that we have available.
All right.
Thank you so much.
So I wanted to make sure that you got to hear directly from them about what they do. Tom and Chris work with our seniors every day, as do I mostly, but they see everything all the time, and they can speak to what they do regularly. So, as you noticed on the other slide, I'm going to go back to you for a second. We are at 6 locations physically, 6. You have 3 staff. Do you know what it's like if one of us is out? We're down a third of our team. Right now, the guys are doing a great job picking up for me because I had to, I'm out right now, but I wanted to be here because this is a really important event and a really important matter to me as a person. I'm 48 years old. I live in this community. I've been talking to people who've lived here their entire lives. And the one major thing I hear all the time is my father, my mother, who are now past 20 years, are gone, and they've been asking for a center. We need a new location that's one senior center.
Yes.
And so, hold on. So the increase in membership that I showed to you earlier in this presentation shows how many people, now that we're offering a good or decent locations, most folks signed up when we were at the Holy Family Parish, and then people are still signing up since we left. But we offer good programs, we have great staff, we need a center. We do not offer large congregate meals on a daily basis, and we only offer grab-and-go lunches through LifePath because we do not have a space where 100 people can gather for lunch. At our Friendsgiving that we had in November, we had 106 seniors attend. At our holiday party, which is one of the photos that you recently saw, we had 104. So we have a regular need. Monthly, when we have different parties or celebrations, we may only average 25 to 40 people because of limitations such as parking. I had someone tell me when they came in earlier, I'm really upset because I came to an event, but I couldn't park anywhere, so I had to leave. And unfortunately, we get that because we don't have a space to use that has ample parking. Our space in Sunderland offers around 16 spaces because our van is usually in one, although we do move that off-site and the staff will park because we have an agreement with the bank next door. And then sometimes we'll park over at the Sunderland Town Hall and walk over. We've had people, our staff do that regularly. So we don't take up the space that the seniors need. Senior center programs and demand the need is rising. With the amount of folks who are going to be 60 and older by 2035, that's only 10 years away. That number in need is going to be increasing. And the biggest thing that I say here is that I'm sure all 3 towns who haven't, really addressed this issue in the past 20 years are not going to want to address this in another 10. So we're making an argument now. We are finally at adequate staffing where we are, and we need to continue to maintain our current level of service. We only have one person who meets with you to go over all those individual services that Chris mentioned. I help as backup, but there's a lot of other hats that I wear as well. Some days I'm the van driver. Some days I'm the plumber. You know, some days we're all doing a multitude of things. We need one new center to serve the current and projected number of older adults in our community. It's shown by facts, it's shown by the progress we're making, it's shown by the services we offer, how many people are now coming into the center. I remember meeting Roger Sadowski at an event I think we had a year, 2 years ago. I asked him, why don't you come? I'm not old enough. Well, guess who's now a member of our senior center? Roger. Thank you. Because we started offering different things that people of all abilities, whether, you know, if you want tech, I shouldn't say abilities, I should say of what your wants and needs are. You know, not just to have fun at our bingo, which sometimes hosts 20 people on a Monday, or our cribbage games, or knitting. We're diversifying to meet as many demands as we can. And even if we had a small, one big center, we could have expanded hours, offer different location sizes. But I'm going to go into, or Chris Wanty's going to go into that for you to talk about what's happened. And I believe this is where you come on next.
Sure.
Now, did everyone get a ballot when you came in tonight?
Yeah.
And you also got the tax information. Oh, okay, sorry.
Or if you'd like one of us to do that.
Yeah, can you please?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
How did we get here tonight? You saw a lot of data that Jen pulled together, which is amazing. And as a select board member, and I know we'll all be reporting to finance committees, we want to work with data. We want to work with real numbers. We don't want to make something up and think we can get along with, with whatever we happen to have. We want to, like, basically, we wanted somebody from the outside who knows something about senior centers to tell us how big should it be for the things we want to do, and how much will that cost for the things we want to do. And we didn't want it to be just, you know, somebody who thinks they might think something about something. You know, we have enough of that going on. Let's get some expertise. So, led by the town of Deerfield, we got a grant, and the grant was to pay consultants, people who know stuff about stuff. In this case, people who know about senior center buildings and senior center services, to give us, as accurately as they can, information about what we ought to be aiming for to serve the needs of the senior center town. And they're using Jen's data, they're using the information from the various surveys, and in addition to that, their expertise. So Chris and Doug are the people with the expertise about how do you make a senior center that does what we want our senior center to be able to do. Okay? So that's how we got here tonight. We've been working with them for weeks and weeks, maybe months now. I feel like it's been almost a year.
Almost, yeah, close.
And Chris and Doug are going to be presenting something that has been evolving over time. And some of you may have had some input on earlier versions, but I hand it over now to Chris.
Thanks, Joyce. Good evening, everybody. My name's Chris. I'm with EDM Studio, and as Joyce mentioned, we were hired early last year, to help the Board of Oversight, Jen and her crew, with a feasibility study for a new center. What you're going to see tonight is not a final design. We're not even close to talking about final design. This is very early on. We're talking conceptual design phase. So we're very early in the process, and we just wanted to get the community involved to show you our progress. As Joyce mentioned, we're experts in senior center design. EDM Studio specifically has designed a couple in the area here, Hadley and South Hadley you might be familiar with. But we also partner with Doug Gallo from Lifespan Design Studio. He's based out of Ohio, and he's nationally recognized for designing senior centers all over the country. So between the two of us, we have a lot of years of experience designing senior centers, and we want to talk a little bit about this process that we went through over the past year. So what we're going to talk about is very quickly go over our process, what we've done to get to our conceptual designs, and we narrowed in on a couple of different options that we want to share with you in a little bit more detail and get some feedback and some comments on where we landed. So the first thing that we do when we get involved with the community is we want to hear from the community. So we go through a 3-step process of public outreach. The first Jen mentioned is a survey. We want to get as many people as we can, and we find that online and paper surveys is the best way to do that. We hold a one-on-one event, which is we're at the senior center all day with multiple team members and different stations and talking to as many people as we can that go through the center. And then later on, we try to get a more focused discussion with a smaller group that is, like I said, more focused on some of the conversations that we heard from the survey and from the one-on-ones. And just really quick, some examples of some of the questions. I won't go through all these in detail. The presentation will be available online afterwards, so all this information that's going to be here, we're going to go through a lot of information. It will be available afterwards, but we're going to kind of try to summarize it as best we can. So here's some survey examples, some photos from our one-on-one event. We were there all day in the late summer, talking to folks, different stations, talking about locations, talking about what people like, what they don't like, talking about different programs and activities. Then we had a focus group where we had a bunch of activities. People were designing their own senior center, designing their own programs. Just had a lot of fun. So basically what we heard were a lot of the same things that Jen's already talked about. Everybody really agrees on some of the main topics. Centralized location, one location, safe parking, ample parking, accessibility is important, outdoor connection, outdoor spaces, outdoor programs, expanded programs like fitness, again, stuff that Jen was talking about. So a lot of this similar things that Jen was bringing up early on to us, we heard through the public outreach process. So programming is how we do a deep dive into the data and really is the first step into creating the size and the layout of the building. And Doug ran that part of the process. So Doug, I'm going to let you run through these few slides. You can still hear us?
Yeah, I can. I don't see the slides as they're being projected on the screen.
Hold on, Doug.
Did we lose the screen share here?
I followed along. I've got it on my laptop in front of me, but I wanted to make sure we were on the same slides together.
How about now? You good?
Yep.
All right, great. Go for it.
Okay. Well, as Chris was saying, as we were gathering public information from participants and trying to get understanding of what their input was, we then looked at the situation, wanted to talk with Jennifer and any staff members about what it is you do at the senior center. And I think one of the misnomers when you listen to try to understand a design process, we don't want to talk about rooms and spaces. We want to talk about activities. We want to talk about what are the services that are being offered, what are the programs that are being offered, because we'll then figure out what that means and what you need in those spaces and activities to serve those activities. So we want to talk about functionality. And we also want to talk about what outdoor activities you want to have as well. So really getting to know the senior center. And in that process, what we did was we sent Jennifer a survey or a questionnaire asking her a whole bunch of questions. We looked at all of the programs that are being offered on your calendar and really wanted to get to understand what it is you currently do at the senior center, what it is you want to do in the senior center for the future, and what you can't do at the senior center now because you don't have the space or the room to do so. In doing this, we ended up developing a list of dedicated use and flexible use rooms and spaces, and how we size those has to do with the different activities and how many people are attending those activities. So we're really trying to design each space individually so that we have a full understanding of what the different activities that can go on in those spaces. We look at the infrastructure, furniture, and equipment layouts that are necessary, and storage needs. And then we also want to talk about the staffing needs. We want to talk about the operations within the facility and how it functions. We know bathrooms are very important in senior centers, so we wanted to talk about bathroom needs, not just what code says, but what the actual needs are within the population. And then we also look at the building systems and the controllability of those building systems, understanding as we age. We always talk about the older we get, somebody in the room is always going to be cold, somebody in the room is always going to be warm, and how do you handle that with regard to different types of heating and air conditioning systems. We also look at issues of acoustics and sound information with regard to the building. And then we look at net square footage versus gross square footage, and I'll talk to you about that as I show you the next chart. As we get into pulling all that information together, this is the list of rooms and spaces that we came up with. And not only, as you can see, are there square footages, there's also actual sizes of those rooms. And we actually detail and diagram each one of those spaces so that we can see how the different types of furniture arrangements can go. Thinking about older adults walking with canes, maybe walkers, even with wheelchairs in the rooms, and making sure people can get around in those spaces. When we add this all up, we end up with a net square footage or a functionality square footage of 11,000 square feet. We then add an efficiency factor, which is the thickness of your walls and corridors and exterior walls in the building. We end up at a little over 14,000 square feet. And that 14,000 square feet includes assembly and dining and multi-purpose rooms, exercise and fitness spaces, classrooms, art-focused classrooms, and flexible use lounge spaces. And the thing that we've seen over the decades that has changed the most dramatically within senior centers is that flexible use lounge space. And we know, especially having gone through COVID, we know that socializing and getting out, being amongst friends and family is so important. And just having a place where you can come into the senior center and just be. You don't have to be there attending activities per se. You can come and just enjoy those lounge spaces, which is really important. One of the things I heard Jen talking about a few minutes ago was parking. And we have always found that the reality of what your parking needs are versus what code zoning will tell you are two very, very different things. And you can see here, South Deerfield zoning requires one space per 8 people, which means you have about 25 or 30 parking spaces for a 14,000 square foot building. In reality, we say you need 7 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet. So we did a total of how many people can be in the building, and we calculated that at near capacity, the building can hold over 200 people at 14,000 square feet. We say you need 100 parking spaces. And in addition to how many spaces you have, we also want that parking lot to be designed with pedestrian safety in mind, ease of vehicular traffic. We want to have a drop-off pickup zone at the front door, which means we need to create a counterclockwise vehicular traffic pattern so somebody on the passenger side of the car can be picked up or dropped off. We also look at patio and outdoor activities when we're looking at the overall site, and then also thinking about additional amenities on site, such as possibly walking trails, lawn areas for games and activities, and possibly even gardening outside. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Chris, and he's going to talk about site analysis.
It keeps doing that. Technology.
It's beeping at me.
I know.
There we go. Okay. All right. So as Doug said, that's kind of the finalization of the program. We now know roughly how many square feet we need for the building, roughly how many square feet we need for the parking. These were the 3 sites that were identified by the Board of Oversight for us to study. There were actually 2 parcels in South Deerfield that we looked at. One was the South Congregational Church. One was the existing town hall location. There was one location at Whately for Sandy Lane location, existing town hall. And then Sunderland, there's a location at 23 Plum Tree Road that we looked at. So here's just a map of all the different spaces that we looked at in proximity to one another, just some data on each site. This is a visual representation of the actual program. So at this early on in the process, we're just trying to figure out, do things fit and what does it look like? We're not getting into the shape of the building or the floor plan at all. We're saying, hey, we got 14,000 square feet, we want one story. We want about 5,000 square feet of outdoor space. We need about 50,000 square feet for 100 parking spaces. What does that look like on these sites? What fits, what doesn't fit? Really get a sense of how these sites are going to accommodate, a new facility. These are just a bunch of evaluation criteria when we are evaluating different sites. A lot of different things go into our evaluation, but right off the bat, the major things are, would a building area fit? Would the parking fit? And are there any environmental concerns that would raise red flags that would essentially say, nope, can't build here, move on, right? So we're looking for big picture things right away. So just to start, we'll try to breeze through the kind of early analysis. This is the South Deerfield location. Here are the two different parcels that we studied over the months. Again, South Deerfield Congregational Church and the existing town hall location. This is a map that's just trying to show all the different components. We have the library, we have the church, we have the 1888 building, we have the police department, we have the town hall, we have the ball field. There's a lot going on this campus, which is kind of fun and exciting location to put a senior center, but just to understand all the pieces and parts on the site, we feel like is important. There are about 87 existing parking spaces on the existing campus right now. There's a couple of proposed and ongoing projects right now. There's the Tilcon Library that's being put up right now. There's plans for 1888 building to be renovated and added to. So this is an overlay of some of the upcoming stuff that's going to be happening, which bumps the parking lot area existing, once those projects are done, to about 106 parking spaces. But again, just an overlay of all the different pieces and parts. So went through a bunch of different studies on the location of the building. What could we do with the church? Could we renovate it? Could we add to it? Could we knock it down and put a new one on there? How would the parking fit? We looked at a bunch of different options. We're not going to get into every single option that we looked at. We just wanted to show that we studied a lot of different configurations with the Board of Oversight. Ultimately, where we landed was this option here, which was an option of demoing the existing town hall, leaving the police department, and putting a new two-story senior center on in the exact location of the town hall. Right now, renovating the parking area around the building and sliding the ball field back a little bit to accommodate some additional parking. So that's the plan that we decided to move forward with, to study a little bit further, get a little bit more into detail, which I'll jump into a little bit later, but want to move on to the other sites that we studied. Here's Whately on Sandy Lane. This is the existing town hall. Again, about a little over 3.5 acres. This one is tricky, existing building. We were trying to work with the existing building, but the existing building has 2 different levels. So you can see in the blue there's actually the lower part of the building, which was an old loading dock, which is about 3.5 feet lower than the rest of the building. So just a little bit of a grade issue in terms of where the floors are that we're contending with. Parking, we're looking at about 72 existing spaces in comparison to the 100 that we were looking at. Plus, we assume that there needs to be parking for staff at the town hall and other patrons that are going to be using the town hall. So, there's going to be a little bit of a shared parking situation here at the Whately location. Again, to study multiple different iterations. Where can an addition go? Would it go in the back? Would it go in the front? Would it go on the side? Where would the parking go? We put parking in the back. We put parking in the front. Just again, studied many different options along the way. Landed on an option of renovating about 5,000 square feet of the existing building that's open for use, adding about 10,000 square feet off on the side, renovating the parking lot, trying to maximize as much parking as we could while still maintaining some of the outdoor space that is so nice about this current site right now. So that's the option that we decided to move forward with on the Whately side.
Excuse me.
And then, yes.
Just a correction on the previous slide, not this, the previous one said it was a town hall. It's not the town halls, it is the town offices.
Yes, the town offices, yes.
There's a little confusion because
Sorry about
they're
that.
using
Sorry.
the town hall for the roads now.
Sorry about that, I'm using the wrong word. Town offices.
question? It was just stating that this is the town office, it's not the town hall
Yeah.
in Whately.
Yep, sorry, used the wrong language there. And then Sunderland, this is 23 Plum Tree Road. This is the old Oxford Press building that has been unoccupied for a little while now. It's up for sale. This is a quick little look at the actual property line. Again, a little over 3.5 acres. Quick little study, the building is existing at 12,000 square feet. There are about a little under 50 parking spaces existing, and ample outdoor space right now adjacent to the building. So that's just the existing conditions. This one didn't have a ton of different options that we looked at, but to get to the 15,000, 14,000 square feet, we were looking at potentially addition off the back, renovating the parking area to get as much parking as we could to try to meet that 100 parking space quota. And the program fits essentially when we're looking at the pieces and parts that we were trying to fit at Sunderland. So at this stage, we're trying to rule things out and trying to narrow things down from the 4 different sites that we were looking at, 4 different locations, because there's 2 at the South Deerfield location that we were looking at, trying to narrow this down into a couple different options to study a little bit further. So again, not expecting anybody to be able to read this, but we essentially have this scorecard that we put together with the Board of Oversight and Jen and her crew to score each site and to really try to objectively narrow down into 2 sites. And what was landed on was moving forward with the Whately site, the town office location, and moving forward with the town hall location at the South Deerfield site. So those are the 2 highest scoring options. They were rated much higher than the other ones. Again, this will be available for folks to see afterwards to understand how we scored things, but those were the 2 far away preferred options to study further. These are the scores. Essentially, in the end, without getting into the details, you can see the town hall location in Deerfield and, town offices in Whately were ranked really high, so those are the ones that we decided to move forward with. So getting into the concept design, getting into a little bit further of a detailed look at what the building could look like. Again, the town hall location shown in red there, we're proposing to remove that existing old school location and put a new 2-story senior center, which ended up being at about 16,000 square feet. We had to go 2 stories there, which made the building a little bit larger. It becomes a little bit less efficient because we need stairs and elevators. So the building grew a little bit from the program document, but essentially the program fits in the building. We have parking around the building, around the west and the north side. We'd leave the police station. We'd renovate the parking area to the south and to the east of the parking area to the police station. We would create some connective roads and little access ways to the other parking areas. And the idea here is that this would more or less be a shared municipal campus of parking. Dedicated to the senior center, we only landed at about 74 parking spaces. 71 parking spaces for the senior center. We were looking for 100. This computer doesn't like me today.
No,
Yes.
but it was a certain time.
Yeah, don't we all? 7, how
There you
many
go. That should buy me some time. I guess I gotta talk quicker. That's my fault.
It's okay.
So, where was I? Talking about parking, we're a little bit underutilized on the senior center specific parking. We have about 71 as opposed to the 100 that we were chasing. But the benefit of this site is we have overflow. We have shared parking that we can utilize. We do have a big circle there you can see that's centered on the entry to the senior center. We like to keep parking spaces for the building around 300 feet from the front door maximum. Again, we don't like folks to be having to walk too far for a senior center, but in this case, we do have parking outside of that can be used in large events and overflow that could definitely alleviate some of the parking concerns for this site. So some of the pros to this option, proximity to the center of town here. There's a lot of amenities in the area. It makes for a nice municipal campus. The parking availability with the overflow, with the shared parking is nice. Visibility from the road, right on Conway Street there. You're going to have a nice frontage of the building there. Some cons, some people might think the shared parking is a con, especially when it's so far from the front door. The building will need to have 2 floors. It's not ideal. We can make it work. It's not the ideal scenario, again, for older adults. And the ball field, to accommodate the additional parking, will need to be relocated. More like shifted instead of relocated. That's probably a better word. So in the end, Total parking for this entire site at about 145 parking spaces. We're pretty comfortable with that in terms of campus-wide parking for the senior center, like I said, for overflow. So Doug, do you want to walk through the plan really quick? You lose him too. Oh, that's okay. I can run through it. It's not a problem.
Question while you're doing that.
He's back.
Did anybody estimate costs of redoing that ball field as far as
Yes.
rotating, shifting?
Yep, we have a number for that at the
Okay,
end.
thank you.
Hold on a second. Doug, can you hear us?
Yes, can you please?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, great. Now we're introduced. Okay, thank you.
So Doug, we were gonna let you walk through the floor plan if you could real quick.
Okay, yeah. The orientation of this is the drop-off and parking is to the left and to the upper part of the page. You come into the building through a vestibule. You would immediately have sight on the reception desk in front of you on the left-hand side. There'd be a lounge area to your right-hand side. There'd also be a set of stairs straight back to the building with another lounge space. Your large multi-purpose room would be to the right. You've also got your kitchen, which would have access from the outside for deliveries and food deliveries and so on. Table and chair storage, so tables and chairs can be moved around the space. That room is also dividable, so you can have two different size activity spaces going on. The food pantry is right there by the front door as well. You can see the office area is along the front of the building. That's because we want the staff to have eyes on the parking lot and then know what's going on outside. We want the people in the parking lot to know that people are watching. So it's also the gatekeeper of the office area is that receptionist, so people just can't walk into the office suite area. There's a group of group restrooms, or there are group restrooms on this floor, as well as a companion restroom, which is a private use restroom. Large enough for somebody to be in there if somebody needs assistance. We've got a number of storage spaces because we know storage is very important within a senior center. And then we've got a conference room which is accessible through the office, so the office has conference room space, and then also just general activity for small group activities to use the conference room. And then there's a classroom that would be for art, music, and other classroom activities. And as you can see at the end of the hallway is another exit, but that's also a stairway that goes up to the second floor. We get up to the second floor, and there's a nice lounge space at the top of the stairs. A little bit of nice architectural drama that from that second floor you can look down into the lounge space and look down over the top of the vestibule. The game rooms is up. The games room is up on the second floor. We are showing a billiards table in there and some card tables. The elevator comes up right next to the stair, so all of the vertical circulation is in the same location. Another pair of restrooms and another companion restroom on this floor, and then a nice size exercise dance studio with the area for cubbies and benches, so you can come into that room, change your shoes, put your purse or your wallet in a cubby, and you're right there in the exercise studio. And there's also an equipped fitness room up on the second floor, which can have some nice views up on the second floor because it's beyond the footprint of the building next door.
So here's just an architectural rendering of what the building could look like. Again, just to reiterate, this is conceptual, this is high level. The floor plan, the site plan, even the exterior rendering here, just to give us an idea of what this building could be. Ultimately, if this were to move forward, we would have a lot more discussions about what the building looks like, what the actual floor plan would be, what the actual site plan would be. This is really just to look at it from a 30,000 foot view and say, what works on this site? So this is kind of looking at what actually could work on the site.
question. Could you go back to the picture?
Sure.
So where's the police station in relation to this building?
Right behind
It's
it.
behind it.
That's
So if we go back, this view right here
Yeah.
is if I'm standing right where Jen's standing, kind of looking at the front door. So,
Okay.
which, again, to go to the site is towards the left there, towards the west, looking this way. So you can see how the police station's behind the building. Costs, we wanted to break down the costs so everybody understood the different pieces and parts. So there's two things to consider when we're talking about costs. There's construction costs, which is what it takes to develop the site and build this building, from the ground up, which is that first line item there in bold, the 13.6 million. Then there's additional, we call soft costs that are on top of that, which are things, professional services, furniture, audiovisual. There's a bunch of other soft costs, contingencies. There's a bunch of other costs that go into a project, which is why I call those project costs. So ultimately, when we're talking big picture, the ultimate cost of this project, we always want to talk in project cost terms, not in construction costs. They're construction costs are in the project costs, but project costs are the overall cost of the entirety to get this thing off the ground and get Jennifer and her crew working in the building and the community using the building. So we use an industry standard at this point. We don't know what the exact soft costs are going to be. We just use industry standard 25% of the construction costs, which gets us to 16.9. Breaking down the construction costs a little bit further, we have the building costs, we have the related site work costs, we have what it's going to take to demolish the building, which is going to include some hazardous materials abatement, and we have a rough idea of what it's going to cost to relocate the ball field. So those are all the different pieces that are built into that construction cost. We have it escalated in terms of cost for the start of summer 2026. Don't know if that's feasible or not. We just had to start somewhere with our escalation, so it is escalated to a certain point in time in the future. And there is a design contingency built into that. So again, this early on, we don't know everything that there is to know about the building structure, mechanical systems and whatnot. So that's built in to the construction cost to try to accommodate all those unknowns that we are going to be dealing with as this project moving forward. So key factors, not going to go through all of them, but we're talking about a site that accommodates all the programmatic needs. It has one secure entry point, good views of the parking lot from the offices. The building's easy to understand as far as navigation goes. It improves the quality of adjacent parking lots. Accessibility to existing utilities because we're dealing with an existingly developed site. The site's pretty level. It's a central location in South Deerfield, near a bunch of other amenities. Opportunity to design a fully accessible, ADA compliant building. Two-story building, like I said, works. It's not preferred, so that could be looked at as a downside to this option. Construction will cause disturbance to the, yes?
Yeah, why is a two-story with an elevator not preferred, i.e. giving active seniors the ability and encouragement to walk upstairs?
So
Can you repeat the question?
she was asking about,
I'm just wondering why a two-story facility with an elevator is considered a negative when active seniors might welcome the encouragement to walk up and down stairs. At least I know I would. And I've been to other health facilities where that's an option along with the elevator. It's great exercise. So I'm wondering why that's considered a negative.
so maybe negative's not the right word that I should be using. Maybe it's just like I was trying to say, not preferred in terms of two-story facilities that we've worked on as renovations. We deal with,
But why is it not preferred?
It's cost,
We-
elevator.
Cost.
I was just
The
gonna,
cost of
Costs
the
a lot more
elevator.
money.
Okay, well, that
And then-
makes some sense to me.
The
but
cost
that
in
wasn't
square
said.
feet.
when we're talking about 5, 10, 15 years down the road, a lot of communities that we work with that are working in existing buildings, they're dealing with elevators that are not working. They're down all the time. And it's something that it's very costly to replace the elevator, so they're just constantly repairing the elevator. So day one, it's fine. Like you said, people can use it all the time, but we've seen places that are 10 years old, which isn't that old, where the elevator is already giving them problems and it becomes very, very difficult. So like I said, I don't think it's necessarily a negative, but if everything's on one level, reduce reduces the cost, and in the future, maintenance-wise, it's much easier to maintain that type of facility. Well, construction will cause a disturbance to the existing campus. We have a police department there that we have to work around that has to stay active, so there's going to be some complexity when we're talking construction. We were a little bit shy on the senior center specific parking, but again, that was helped a little bit by the shared parking. You have to relocate the ball field, as we mentioned, and unless we're using the ball field for outdoor program spaces, there's not really any adjacent space for outdoor programs, so we're a little bit shy on the outdoor spaces that are available on the site. When we get into Whately, again, here's the site that we're talking about. Here's the preferred option. We revamped the parking area, so we changed how we're accessing the parking area. So before we were entering off Sandy Lane off the higher elevation, we proposed a new entrance drive to make it easier for folks to enter into the site and get to the front door on the passenger side of the car to allow easy drop-off for passengers. We also tried to maximize the parking count here, so with relocating some of the parking areas and making them a little bit more efficient, we were able to get over 120 parking spaces, so that's well within what we need, plus a little bit of extra for the town offices function. We created another emergency exit point off of Sandy Lane up there, just again, with so many people coming and going, we felt like it would be nice to have another way to get in and out of the site. We have a parking area down towards the southeast there, which is, you'll see in a second, adjacent to the kitchen to allow easy drop-off. Could also be used for accessible parking, because it's most likely the closest to the front door. When we're talking about pros and cons to this site, two-way circulation makes it really easy. Nice entry drive, very simple and easy to navigate drop-off. Safe pedestrian flow. One thing I didn't talk about over at the South Deerfield site was that the site's designed for safe pedestrian access to the front door. So as you'll see, all the parking aisles are perpendicular to the building. So folks get out of your car, you get right onto a sidewalk. You don't have to walk through the drive aisles. You get to a crosswalk, you get to the front door. It's trying to keep people away from the vehicular access aisles. Again, all about safety, all about trying to keep our seniors safe as they're accessing the building. Some negatives to the site: shared parking with town functions. Not really a huge negative, but maybe there might be some overlap there that might not be great. Total reworking of the site, again, not a huge negative, but definitely a cost consideration when we're talking about construction costs, which you'll see in a second. So looking at the floor plan, Doug, before you jump in, I just wanted to note here, the existing building it's hard to see here blown up, but there's a red line that denotes what's existing. Thank you, Trevor. That's existing. And then to the right is all the additions. So this building's the addition's gonna be, at a 45-degree angle, and the reason we're doing that is somebody decided to take this building and put it on a 45-degree angle on a square site, which doesn't really make any sense. So again, just trying to respond to the site, trying to maximize as much space as we can on the site and within the building. So that's why you're looking at a floor plan here that's a little bit kooky when it comes to the shapes, but again, it's just really responding to the site. And there's a hashed area, again, kind of hard to see blown up here, but that's the area that we're gonna have to bring the floor up to match the rest of the floor of the building to keep it all on one level. And the plan for the addition would be to bring that up as well. So again, everything's on one level. So Doug, you want to walk through the floor plan real quick?
Yep, again, similar in concept, come through the front vestibule at the drop-off area. Again, you've got good view of the reception desk, and they have you. The lounge lobby area right there at the front door. Again, the large multi-purpose room has a good breakout space into the lobby when you've got large group activities going on in there. The food pantry, again, very close to the front door for ease of access. Kitchen right there on the corner, so again, for deliveries. We've worked that out with regard to the site. And then it's the aesthetic of being able to see right through the building to the lobby lounge in the rear, next to the exercise studio there on the back side of the building. There could be a nice covered patio that would be both accessible from the lobby lounge as well as from the large multi-purpose room. As we turn the corner and go down the hallway, again, the office suite is right there looking out at the front of the building, still controlled by the receptionist for access into that area. We've got the games room off of the main spine, the spine that goes up and down the building. And then we've got the companion restroom and the group restrooms along the hallway. We've got the equipped fitness room and the art and music studio on the back side of the building as well for opportunity for windows, and then some additional companion restrooms at the end of the hallway. One of the things in this design, we had to create a secondary exit from this floor, and you can see that it meanders through the existing town area that's in the building. So that should work out just fine. But one of the challenges that I think I heard Chris talking about was the difference of elevations within the building, that the loading dock area is lower than the main part of the building, so the entire site grading would have to be reworked. But this gives us good access to the available grounds around the building.
Again, just a pretty picture to get people excited about what this building could be. You'll see in the gray and the white in the background trying to show what the existing building is. There's some interesting architecture when we're talking about that existing building, so trying to play off of it, trying to create a nice, warm, inviting center and with a separate entry off on the east side of the site. You'll see kind of a taller space in the back. That's the multi-purpose space. Again, we want some height there. We want to let a lot of daylight into that space and try to differentiate it in terms of the size of the building. So again, just a nice little vignette into what the building could be if it were on the site. Some costs similar to the South Deerfield site. The building costs are a little bit less because we're dealing with some renovation work inside the building, so there's a little bit less on the building side. The site work ended up being a little bit more. We had to bring some of the grading up to bring that floor level up to match the existing part of the building. So a lot of existing site work that needs to be done there, so that number's a little bit higher. There's no relocation of the ball field. There's no hazardous materials involved in this building, so it's a little bit less on the construction costs, which brings the soft cost down, which puts us at a little bit over $15.5 million for the overall project costs for this location. Includes all the same escalation contingencies and whatnot. There's no differences from one to the other. So just some key factors again. We're working with an existing building, which is always, nice in terms of saving a little bit of cost. It fits all the programmatic needs on the site. It's a one-story building. We just talked about the benefits of one-story versus two-story. Ample outdoor space, which I think I might have skipped. So when we're talking about differences between this site and the last site, this site has a lot more green space directly adjacent to the building, which we'd be planning for off the back of the building there, off that covered patio. So that's one of the positives of this site is the ample outdoor space for programs for outdoor yoga and whatnot. It does meet the parking program, and overflow can be accommodated, easy to navigate parking lot. Again, opportunity to find a fully accessible ADA compliant building on the one level. We're reusing an existing town facility, which is always good. Some downsides, again, same thing with Deerfield, disruptions to existing operations for the town offices, significant rework of the parking lot. Topography adds a little bit of cost to the site, because we have to bring the grading up a little bit. And then the perception that we heard a lot was that Whately's not perceived as centralized to all the communities, is a little bit out of the way, which is debatable, but that was something that we heard a lot in our conversations and our public outreach efforts. So again, I've been going on for a while now, so I'll try to zip through this. Evaluation criteria. We studied all of these different things for these two sites in more detail once we had all the data. Did a scorecard. Scores at the bottom, blown up here. As you can see, when we try to evaluate it on an objective level, they're fairly similar. We gave one green and one orange just because we had to put one on top and one on bottom, but essentially they're the same score. It's very close. They each have their pros and their cons, and it's really going to be up to the community to determine, what is the preferable option. Some decision-making factors. I won't go through all these. These are pretty much summarizing what we've already talked about in terms of pros and cons. Again, Not a lot of differences when it comes to how many greens versus reds. They're pretty even when it comes to evaluating them from a key factor standpoint. Sustainability, when it comes to designing a building, sustainability will always be important to our firm. We just wanted to make sure that that was mentioned in terms of bringing natural daylight into the building, looking at designing high performing envelopes, recollecting rainwater. We studying all this stuff down the road, but it's not really part of the conversation at this point of the equation.
So,
Talk real quick.
yeah, Julie Telfont, the chair of the Deerfield Finance Committee, was wonderful and put together the tax implications that could potentially occur using fiscal 24 data. So this breaks it down for residents of Deerfield, Sunderland, and Wakefield. We printed out enough copies for everyone to take one, so if you don't have one, please be sure to take one on your way out. But this is just to give you an overview. For those of you who are probably around, I'm between 250 and 350 for my house value. My annual tax basis would be maybe $181. If you go up in the brackets, you could be seeing a tax impact of $645. But that's based on the value of your home and where the percentage of the price breakdown is. I cannot answer questions on this slide deck, but I don't know if Julie would be willing to answer questions on that for us tonight. She's shaking her head yes.
And I just wanted to hit on one thing real quickly, is that, why are you not seeing a Sunderland comparison here, right? And when we looked at it and got a lot of the surveys back, the perception was that one spot was too far for people to try. They weren't going to go that far. So they felt like, well, we're building a senior center for everybody in Amherst, So not that it isn't that far. I mean, we travel all over the place for all kinds of things. But that was one of the factors we heard, and we were trying to pare down the site. Kind of the consensus of all the group was that, based on the impact that we were hearing. But that doesn't mean that another site couldn't come up. We've heard from other people that other ideas. So these aren't set in stone, but they're just wanted to mention why you don't see an evaluation of the other property on Plum Tree Road.
Yeah, I think Chris did a good job too of showing where we had the pros and cons with all of the 4 sites that were analyzed. Bob, you had a question?
Yes. About 5 or 6 years ago, I attended a Board of Oversight meeting and discussed the senior center and what was going to happen and whatever. And at the time, the Channing Peak property was on the market. And I suggested the board look at it. Nothing happened. We could have put everything there, including the town hall, everything else. So we slept on it.
I understand your frustration.
What's that?
Where would you get your beer then?
I couldn't hear you. Anyway, I haven't gone over to buy $1 worth of beer yet. Okay? And I don't drink enough to say so anymore. But the point is, we should have been looking forward. Now, right now, you're going to roughly $15, $16 million we're going to spend. And it looks nice and it sounds fine. What would it cost us to put it on a freestanding piece of property, right? Like the one we own on North Main Street, or looking at the property that the water district owns on 116. Okay? Then you could put the whole thing right there and not have to tear anything down. It's an open piece of property.
Great ideas, Bob. Yeah. Anybody has any more? Any other lots up for us to look at? We'd love to do that. You can put this building kind of anywhere.
Well,
That's really the spot that we're at, is that we got an evaluation of what the needs are, whether the community wants to spend the money on those needs or recognize them, but we really wanted to lay out what the needs are of our seniors going forward for the 3 communities. And then decide where it would go, how do you pay for it, where can we get funding, all of that.
I have a couple other questions. The police station is going to exist in its current facility
Yes.
So far.
so far, and will that be adequate?
At this point in time, it's not being torn down.
There's plans, Chief had been talking about remodeling a bit of the bays, maybe adding on to the bays a little bit. Nothing major.
Now, are you anticipating user fees for participants in this program? A lot of the people that, I don't happen to use the facility, but some people are probably well-heeled enough that they could pay a modest user fee.
Well, are you talking about to be a member? There's no cost to be a member because we get funding from the Commonwealth to help offset certain things. Now, that doesn't go towards all programming. As I shared before, certain programs have been funded by grants. So as we deplete grants, participants in certain classes will be paying a fee for classes.
Okay, but right now, I could be corrected, but I think the participants in the scholastic, basketball, football, et cetera, pay user fees at the high school.
We don't charge fees, Bob.
Well, maybe
Are you talking about in the future?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe that might be something that, I'm not talking about an elaborate fee, but a modest fee.
So none of the senior centers in our state, to my knowledge, and Haley, maybe you could shed some light. Haley Wood is from Mass Council on Aging that we're a member of. But to my knowledge, the only senior center in the area that charges any type of fee to join is Northampton, and that's just to offset the $2 to pay for their My Senior Center card. But there would be no fee because then you have people who can't afford to pay membership. It should be open and welcoming to everyone.
But we do have sometimes fees.
Yeah, we have fees for classes, but not to be a member.
Yeah, that's the distinction. And
Yeah.
certainly all senior centers that I'm aware of have some programs for which they need to charge a fee.
Yeah, but not to
Usually
be a
very
member.
modest.
I didn't realize that nobody charged for fee. All right.
Yeah, not to be a member. For classes and participation in certain programs, yes. We've seen some senior centers charge $3 for a certain movement class, up to $15 for a movement class. It all depends on the cost analysis, breaking down the number of participants, what the instructor may charge, is there any space fee, etc. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Right now, as it stands, for our movement classes starting in April, there's going to be fees of $4 for enhanced fitness, $5 for chair yoga, and sorry, I forgot the third class, but there's another charge there, I think, for balance. So, but the other classes, we've been able to fund through various grants, so we haven't had to charge, but that's more of a programming cost, and we're not implementing that onto anyone to come in to participate as someone who just pops in, wants to hang out and make friends, For meals, that previously, when there were congregate meals offered at the old space at 67 North Main, people paid as it was a private donation they made for lunch, but that was through LifePath. We have a partnership with LifePath that they're at our site to do the grab-and-go meals, and those are a anonymous donation if you choose to. It's not mandatory, and that's like a Meals on Wheels program. So all of those things are different. And if there were a cost based to us, for example, we use our gift fund, say someone sends in a monthly check of $20 or $10 or something, we use that to cover if we have an event where we're purchasing cheese and crackers or providing fruit. We don't always get those in the donations we got from Triad out of Greenfield or the South County Triad when they bring in, different items to support the center. So we do charge some things, or people make donations, and we try to use that as much as possible. So Julie's going to go over the tax stuff for you. Do you have questions pertaining to the tax you want to wait, or do you want to ask me now, Karen?
I'll ask you now.
Karen?
Yeah, first I want to thank everyone who was involved in all the work leading up to this point, and I'm so excited that at some point I'm going to see a new senior center, so thank you all very much. And I wondered on your criteria between the two sites, if public transportation access had anything to do with your criteria, and also population-wise, how many seniors could potentially walk to each place, or that, about 350 seniors would have to drive to Whately versus 59 people having to drive to, Deerfield. Just wondering, transportation for the public and private,
The public transportation is certainly something we consider. The public transportation is willing to make a stop at the Whately town offices if we have a senior center there. So that's, I think, it's going to be, that will be like not different among the sites. I don't think all 350 people from Deerfield live within walking distance of the center of town.
Well,
So
you
it's
have-
not
you
a
have
matter,
a-
so
you
hold
have
on, you
You have
gotta
at
let
least
me.
100.
Let me
with the
answer, please.
55
Okay.
That
So
can work.
there is that. But honestly, public transportation isn't necessarily how we get around in the towns. Okay? So, for example, people who live up in West Whately, they're not going to take a bus to the senior center. Right? Most people living in the remote parts of Deerfield, or even the close parts of Deerfield, are not going to take a public bus. So public transit, I would downplay that, but still, they're willing to make a stop for us. And yes, one of those two locations is closer to, more people could walk to. That's already acknowledged. So I'm not saying that they're equivalent. I'm saying the public transportation, not a deciding factor there. We'd have to figure out numbers because there'll be a small community that could walk from Whately. And our center is doing a lot more of their own transportation. Chris picking up people in the van who can't get a ride in otherwise.
I'm one of those people.
You're one of those people, excellent, I'm
But
so
I can
glad.
also walk to the center of South Deerfield. And I think also the criteria of 350 people driving to Whately versus 50 should be something
I
that's
don't think
weighed.
that's a valid comparison, because I don't think 350 people will be walking to the center in Deerfield.
Driving.
No. You said 350 people walking to the center in
Excuse me, I
Deerfield.
misspoke.
Okay.
350 people if they had to drive to Whately.
Can we let her
We
talk?
have 350 people who potentially would have to drive to Whately versus 50, whatever the numbers were, 59 people, active members in Whately having to make their way to South
But those
Deerfield.
350
Is
people-
that anything that was
No.
part of the criteria?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is something we think about, but I work with numbers all day. So the first thing you said is still driving me crazy. Because 350 people from Deerfield, most of those are going to be driving to Deerfield, to their senior center anyway, and Whately is only a half a mile away. It's less than half a mile from the center of town in Deerfield to the Whately town offices. Okay? So you can't say that no one from Deerfield is going to drive. They will drive to the Deerfield Center. Some people from Deerfield will be able to walk to a center in Deerfield. I agree with you. And that is something that absolutely, yes, we are taking that into consideration.
People will drive a long ways, I think, to go to a new center, for sure.
Yeah.
That's
But even when we were at the Holy Family Church in the center of South Deerfield, everyone drove. We had maybe 10 people at max that would come to Enhanced Fitness in the morning that lived centrally located. But most people drove. People are coming there for an activity. They weren't coming there to get their exercise going from one part of the town to the other. I mean, I'll be honest, I live on Conway Street on the other side of the railroad track. I could walk to work. I'd rather drive to Whately than try to deal with some of the other stuff. I mean, I still drive my car, and I could walk for some things, but, so I understand the concern with that. And yes, Deerfield has a higher population. It's 1,639 older adults. Whately only has 544. And it's based on, and that's why Deerfield pays 50% and the other two towns pay 25%. But this is why we're having meetings in all three communities, and we're opening it up to everyone in the community who's a taxpayer, who wants to make a decision or have some input. So, the goal is to bring in younger, older adults as well. So it's going to matter because, there are going to be people who not just worry about transportation, but who worry about, hey, are you going to be open in the evening hours and all sorts of things. And we did consider all of these factors. We considered location. We considered outdoor space. Like we could have a community garden where we get intergenerational things going on at, at Whately to provide the food that we cook. So there's so many factors that we're looking at, and these are the final two. But that's why we're here to show you what you can choose to vote for location and all the other pieces, that you might be interested in having at a center. So, yeah, so Julie wants to talk about.
I'll be very quick. I'm Julie Chalfant. I'm the chair of the Finance Committee in Deerfield. If I haven't met you before, even if I have met you before, I still am. When I put this, I just wanted to get my mind around how much money this would be. So if you look in the top right-hand corner, those are the assumptions that go into it. So it assumes a $15 million loan for 20 years at a 3% rate. We just saw that 15 million is low, right? It's going to be a little bit higher than that. You can think in your own mind about whether 3% is reasonable or not. It might be a different number. We had to assume something. So those are the assumptions that go into it. As Jen just said, Deerfield pays 50%, Sunderland and Whately pay 25%. So these three columns right here that say Deerfield, Sunderland, Whately, if you assume that the cost that we pay, Deerfield will pay 50% of the cost of this building, this is the estimated tax impact, annual tax impact on the Deerfield rate. You guys with me on that? And Sunderland and whatever. If you assume that you take the whole price and you divide it evenly among everybody in all of the towns, that's what this other column is, all three towns. Right? Does that make sense? You're with me? Okay. The other point that's not really on here, if you look at this, it's like somewhere between a 3.5% and 5% increase to your current tax bill, if that helps you get your mind around how much money it is. So.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah.
And then Julie took the initiative to do this for us because, you know, when we started, we weren't sure how it was going to be affected, and we're really grateful for the support on that because, you know, it helps to bring it down for everyone to understand what the ramifications are, regardless of you know, how much we spend. Because in addition to taxpayer money, we're looking at fundraising and we're looking at grants. Now, obviously, a lot of different things are going on in the federal government right now, so we don't know what will be available, what will not be available, but this is just giving this production, you know, to kind of give people an idea. And these numbers can be changed, you know, by going in and adding the different details, and we can give you up-to-date information as the process proceeds. But we are at the start of this, you know, or a little past the start. You know, we had the open forum in the fall, and we brought in the community, we advertised, and, you know, we got not as good of a turnout as we were hoping, but, you know, as this progresses, our goal is to be clear and transparent with everyone, to let you know where we're going, what we're doing, and what we want to accomplish. I cannot believe the amount of times that I have heard people say, you have gotten us so far in 3 years compared to we've been asking for this for 20. And I'm not making that up. You know, the person who said that to me is sitting out here tonight. And I am grateful that I have this opportunity to do this for all of you and for everyone else in our community who will at some point benefit from this, even in 20, 30 years. This is not a small feat. This is a large thing to take on, and I have to say my Board of Oversight has been hands-on. They've been asking great questions. We've been trying to really engage in the community, and that's why we're holding 3 forums, 1 in the evening, 2 during the day at different times, and we'll probably continue on.
I have a question. I think maybe some people are thinking why, and maybe I reach out to Chris or Doug on this. Why the 15,000 square feet, or however many, 12,000 square foot building? How did we get there? I think that's a question people have. And can it be smaller? Why are we doing this? I guess if we could just quickly explain the process of like how that number came up and why isn't it 5,000 square feet, or why isn't it, 20,000 square feet? And where do we peel things off?
Yep. So Doug.
Also, how much space does the senior center now have? I know it's like
We don't have any space. We don't have any space.
We rent a space, it's 1,700 square feet with 16 parking spaces.
Did you hear that question?
Yes.
Oh, you mean the one in Sunderland?
One second, sorry.
I didn't know.
Sorry. Yeah. It's not 0, 1,700.
1,700 square feet
In Sunderland?
in Sunderland.
So I'm going to let Doug
Yes,
answer that. So
please.
Doug, why don't you go ahead and jump in about how we got to the 15,000 number per square footage?
As I mentioned before, when we started looking at the square footage needs of the facility, we started looking at the activities, the programs, and the services that are being offered. In looking at the current program, services, and activities, looking toward the future, how much frequency there is with some of the activities, when they're offered during the day, when they're offered during the week, when they're offered during the month. Really trying to work with Jennifer in putting together a future program calendar. And looking at the demand that exists now and projecting the demand existing for the future, thinking about the demographic change with regard to the percentage of older adults in the community now and in the future. These are the rooms and spaces that we created to meet those needs now and into the future. One of the other ways that you increase the activity opportunities is to extend your hours of being open as well. So if you're open from 9 to 4 and you want more activities to occur on a daily basis, you can be open from 8 to 6, or you can be open from 7 to 9. That allows you to use your square footage more. But what we have found just time and time again, that when you start looking at activities and projected programming opportunities, that's how you develop the spaces that you need for various activities. One of the things that a lot of people think that if you just have a lot of vanilla multi-purpose rooms, you're going to be able to make the building smaller. But what we also try to look at is the size of the activities and the type of activities. I always say you don't want to do grief counseling in a 4,000 square foot multi-use, multi-purpose room, because that's not going to be conducive to grief counseling when you want a small, intimate space for that. So we're looking at the sizes of spaces, the different types of activities, and in doing so, coming up with 14,000 square feet, we don't enter into a project with an expectation of what we think that number is going to be. It's going through this formula, this process, to come up to this point. If we start looking at could the building be smaller, you really don't want to make rooms smaller. If you make the room smaller, then less people can get into those spaces, then you start to handicap yourself right out of the gate. So then you look at the spaces and say, well, which rooms don't we want? And the answer almost always is, well, we want all of these spaces. So the number comes up at 15,000. And Chris and I have been doing this, and each time we do this, and someone says, could the building be smaller? We say, well, what don't you want in the building? And the answer is always, well, we want all of these things so that we can provide these services and activities and programs, and that's where your number comes from.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Yes.
Yeah, how does this compare to, say, Greenfield Senior Center or Northampton
How does it
Senior Center in terms of square foot?
How does this compare with Northampton and Greenfield as
Yeah.
far as square footage?
So I don't actually know those numbers off the top of my head. I don't have.
We looked at Hadley Senior Center. Haley can talk to that if you would like to, Haley.
I can share the square footage of the Hadley Senior Center. It was 10,250 square feet. And that's for a smaller population of older adults than what you're looking at in here.
Hadley has about as much as South Deerfield, so it's about 5,000 people in general in Hadley. So it's about half the size of all three communities combined, and the center is about 10,000. The story about that one is they actually wanted 12,000. They got it approved, but planning and zoning, because of some parking complications, required them to shrink the building a little bit. So we actually had a larger building for the design that everybody approved and was gung-ho for, but planning and zoning made it shrink it a little bit. So just to give you guys a little context.
And Greenfield's population isn't really comparative because we're trying to look at, like the senior population and comparing to size. So, unfortunately, some of those are a little larger because their population is larger. And I know, one of the concerns up in Greenfield is it's, more of supposed to be used as a community center. And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't, and there's a lot of different factors. So it's looking right now like Deerfield's, the Congregational Church is their community center, you know, potentially at this point, but that wasn't large enough to meet our needs by any means. So it's not like a long-term fix. That's why they pivoted over to the town hall location for that. I saw another question over here. Yes.
Yeah, it's two-part. First of all, I assume that it has to go to town meeting in all three towns?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now what happens if two of the towns says, oh, heck yeah, and the third town says, no, we don't want anything to do with it? What happens?
You know, it all depends on how you're structuring the borrowing and what the total cost, who's taking on that cost. Yeah, I mean, if all three towns would have to go forward with it. I don't think two towns are gonna force the third. That's not good politics, it's not good neighbors. We're not, for the school, like school budget, kind of that's written into the municipal agreement that, if three of the towns approve the budget, the fourth one has to go along with it, but not building a building and a senior center. We'd all have to agree.
Yeah, we don't have a long negotiated agreement like we do for the school budget year to year.
Yeah.
We don't have something like that for a senior center, so it would have to be all three towns.
Was there anything else with that, or was that just?
Well, I think we need some PR, because I know,
Sure.
we all focus on the kids, and they get everything they want from the town meeting. And I feel really left out, and I'm one of the people that can't do aerobics because there's no room for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really essential, and I hope that we find a way to get the word out in such a positive way that people will be behind
So
it.
that's why one of the things that you can do, I don't know if you go to the last slide, Chris, but we have a letter that I had composed. It's something that you could take with you. You can make a lot of copies and send it to your town selectmen, your finance committee, and whomever else, maybe your assessors to get support. It says, my name is, you can put your name in, what town you live in, and you can sign it down here. Feel free to use it as a template if you'd like. Write your own. Because, people were like, well, we're sending stuff to the letter of the editor, and we've been making noise for a while. Well, this is the time to make the loudest noise possible if you want this to move forward. Because you have to let them know, yeah, we want this, but are you going to support the tax bill, the 16 million, the 15 million, or even like 13 if we end up with a good amount of fundraising and grants? But none of that stuff is guaranteed. We're seeing that like the Tilton Library projects and other projects around the area, not just within Deerfield. I think Greenfield Library got all their stuff, but they had no money to buy furniture. I mean, so these are all things that we're looking at. And if you want to help, you can sign up with us. You can talk to your friends and neighbors. We have 2 more forums coming up. We have one on the 28th during the daytime at 10:30 at Whately Town Hall in the auditorium upstairs. We have one at March 19th at the Sunderland Public Library at 2 o'clock. And, we're not going to get this on this year's annual town meeting because we don't have the support. We've been in process of working on this for a while. My goal when I first started was get us out of 67 North Main Street because our staff was still working there, even though it was condemned and we weren't supposed to, be in certain things. So I got us Sunderland. And we were there, and we've been working there, and our goal is to continue to be a center and to offer support and services for anyone who needs it. And then share the information about those forums, write the letter that I shared. You came tonight. There's ballots up there. Vote for your favorite design, for the conceptual. I know it's the 30,000 feet, but if you're interested in being involved in this whole process, Chris and Tom have their business cards out there. You can get in touch with them to sign up. They will get your information. If you signed in tonight, we asked for your name, your email address, if you have one, and your mailing address, so we can keep you in the loop and have you help, because we do need volunteers to keep this going.
But you need to come to the finance committees, and you need to come to your select board meetings and voice that you want this. I mean, it won't happen without community groundswell of support. It just will not. That's why it hasn't happened yet. It's a lot of money and people are stretched thin and there's multiple projects going on. But unless you get involved like contacting Natalie Blade, Joe Comerford, Jim McGovern, our state senators, like we need funding for seniors. We need funding for municipal buildings. Everybody, and it can happen. That's how we got more money for the library from the state. Because we got hit with COVID, prices went up, everybody got a groundswell. We partnered with other communities. We partnered with other communities around the state. They found more money. It wasn't everything, and we still have a lot of money to do these projects, but any way we can pull towns together, other regions together to force funding for our seniors who need it. That's the only way we're going to get this to happen. And it's going to take time. It's not a fast process, but the more you come to Finance Committee every time and show up and take those 2 minutes and say why you're there and what you want, and go to Finance Committee and listen to what they're working on for their budgets and tell them what you want.
And that's important. Jeff?
Yeah, a couple of things. And one, I just want to go back to designs. And Bob had mentioned instead of tearing buildings down and doing a ton of site work to make things fit, an empty lot sounds like a pretty good idea. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, but I think the whole issue with that lot on North Main is...
Well, sometimes, we have land here that we do own, the town of Deerfield owns. Waverly may have some, Sunderland may have some. So there are other options. The other thing is that a design, I would suggest with a building background to stay away from a two-story design. You eliminate the elevator so you don't have the maintenance, the license, and God forbid, if that elevator goes down and there's a problem, trying to get seniors out of a second floor.
Help us find a parcel. Yeah.
No, seriously, we're curious because we honestly went through a lot of the open land or the options within Deerfield, so I'm curious to know what you're referring to for different
If you
parcels.
if you know anybody, if there's an open lot somewhere, we're interested.
Fred, did you have a question before?
Well, let me
finish.
Sure.
Also, I was just wondering, it's a catch-22. Everybody is a little concerned where our tax base is going. We saw the numbers there, and we still have library to pay for, and we have a sewer system coming down the line at some point. Who knows who's going to pay for that yet? But at the same time, I want to remind people that seniors have been paying taxes for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And when you look at the town budget, 70%, roughly 60 to 70%, goes to our school systems. How much of that budget goes to our seniors?
Right, well, this is our...
And that's a big question. The last thing I would like to ask is, have we requested the town administrators from the 3 different towns, and I know, Jennifer, you've been trying to do this on your own, have we requested that those town administrators try to pursue grant money? What are some organizations out there? Who's working? Where can we tap into? How can we get some help as far as financial aid for this project?
We are. We're actually...
And I think if
communication with all 3 towns.
right, I think if we all put our heads together, we may be able to come up with a solution and some answers.
Yeah.
Because this is not an easy thing to discuss. There's a lot of pros and cons to it. But I'd like to see people make a great effort.
Thanks, Jeff. And Fred, you've had
Yeah.
for a while.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
In your presentation, I saw that 120 of the 671 members are not from these 3 communities.
Yes.
Is there any way to get any money from
Nope.
Granby, not Granby, Leverett, or any other community? So we are subsidizing them, and we will be attracting more of them with a bright new facility.
So we're not really subsidizing them because anybody, if there's a fee, for example, I know of a senior that we regularly give transportation to and from Hadley for multiple things a week. She gives me a $5 donation every time she takes my van. She gives me donations regularly.
I'm not saying subsidizing the individual, we're subsidizing those families which have an amenity, our amenity that they are using.
Our seniors, senior center hop regularly. So you could say the same about our seniors. They go to Greenfield, they don't pay a membership fee, they may pay for class participation. There are places, I know a lot of people go to Irving, beautiful brand new senior center or newer-ish, and people go there all the time. So if there's really no way to subsidize them because they're not subsidizing, or they're helping us. You follow? Our seniors are going everywhere.
Fred, we might be able to partner though too, and look at different ways, like we'd love to bring in Conway if they were interested, but I think that, yeah, if there's different programs, or if somebody's coming, there's a service, a membership fee if you're not in this community. Some things to look at.
And Trevor, I have a question for you. That you'd be best situated to answer. You're doing Tilton Library, you're looking at 1888 building. Will those construction projects impede or slow down this one getting done? Assuming the Deerfield location.
The reason the Deerfield site, we moved from the church because it just wasn't going to fit the needs. Once we knew we got the grant and the town vote to move our town hall into the 1888 building and do the addition, that's what brought this property up available.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about the timeline. That construction costs go up every year. Will those projects being at the front of the line add to costs of this because this will get delayed by a year or two?
By the time we get to a project and get all three towns to vote and come up with the funding and grants and all that stuff, I think we'll be in that 1888 building. The library will be done next year. We're starting already. Tim might have left already, but we're starting pretty quickly on the 1888 building. So I think by the time it all happens, realistically, it should fit right in. If it went there, Whately is, open too.
It only impacts.
Right, correct.
My name is Natalie. I'm just wondering where the slide deck will be available.
So we have a website, southcountyseniorcenter.org.
On the site.
We're gonna put that up, but give me till maybe Monday just to get everything situated because FCAT is also going to be broadcasting this. But I just want to give us some time because we have a big event going on tomorrow and some things on Friday. So we should have everything posted online by Monday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Any other questions tonight? And if you are interested in helping us accomplish this mission, please sign up at the center. We'd love to have you volunteer, get the word out, help write letters. Not just to our finance and select boards for our three towns, but as Trevor mentioned and Joyce, we have Senator Blais, Senator Comerford, we have Representative Blais, we have Senator Mark also who represents Whately, and we have McGovern and a few others, and Congressman McGovern is coming to an open house that we're doing in April, so if you have a letter, you can give it to him then too. But it all takes grassroots efforts. It's not just us. We're trying to facilitate some of these pieces and behind the scenes, and we've gotten this far. It was great that Deerfield got the feasibility grant to pay for the study or everything that Chris Wanty and Doug Gallo are doing with their designs and everything. But it takes a village. It takes three because we represent three. And I just want you to remember that. So thank you for coming.
I want to thank Doug and Chris tonight.
And I want to thank my staff for flexing their day so they could be here tonight.
And I think we all owe, for the past 4 or 5 years now, 3 years, it seems like longer, Jen has been really the driver behind a lot. Thank you, Jen.